Dave is about to buy something he doesn't need. Again. And he has no idea why. Here's a weird fact. Almost nobody makes their money mistakes on purpose. You don't wake up and think, today I will sabotage my finances. And yet, generation after generation, the same wallet-draining pattern shows up. Different house, different decade, same leak. I wanted to know why. So I did something a little unusual. I went digging through my own family. Grandpa, Dad, me. 3 totally different lives. Same invisible glitch running in the background the whole time. Let's start with Grandpa, because his story is where this whole thing begins. It's 1932. The bank down the street just closed its doors. Permanently. People lost everything overnight, and there was nothing they could do about it. Grandpa was 7 years old. He watched his own father cry for the first time in his life over a piece of paper that used to be worth something. That moment didn't just scare him. It rewired him. For the rest of his life, Grandpa didn't trust banks. Not one bit. He kept cash in coffee cans, buried in the yard, hidden behind the water heater. Anywhere but a bank. And here's the thing nobody tells you. That wasn't irrational. For him, it was armor. It made total sense. If the last bank you trusted vanished with your life savings, why would you ever trust another one? But armor built for one war doesn't always fit the next one. Grandpa passed that fear down. Not with a lecture, not with a lesson. He never once sat his kids down and said, "Don't trust banks." He didn't have to. They just watched him flinch every time an envelope from the bank showed up in the mail. That's how it spreads. Not through words. Through what gets modeled. Now meet Dad. Growing up watching his father hoard cash and panic about scarcity, Dad swore he'd do the opposite. He was going to prove that money wasn't something to be afraid of. So Dad went the other way completely. New car every 3 years. The nicest house on the block. If you had it, you flaunted it. Because to Dad, money wasn't dangerous. It was the whole point. It was proof he'd made it. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called money worship. The belief that money will fix everything, buy happiness, solve every problem, if only you get enough of it. People with this mindset chronically overspend because they overestimate how much satisfaction a purchase is actually going to give them. Dad wasn't reckless. Dad was terrified. Just terrified of the opposite thing his father was terrified of. Grandpa feared losing money. Dad feared looking like he didn't have any. Same root, completely different branches. And now here's where it gets personal. Because I used to think I was the exception. I don't hoard cash in coffee cans. I don't lease a new car every 3 years to impress the neighbors. I thought I'd broken the cycle. I hadn't. I just found a sneakier version of it. Watch this. This is me, last Tuesday. Paycheck hits. First thing I do, not pay a bill, not check my budget. I open my banking app and just stare at the number. For way too long. Almost like I'm making sure it's still there. I do this every single payday. I never told anyone that. I didn't even notice I was doing it until I started digging into this story. Here's what I eventually figured out. That little ritual isn't random. It's a direct descendant of Grandpa checking on his coffee cans in the backyard. Same anxious question, just wearing a different outfit 90 years later. Is it safe? Is it really still there? I never buried cash in a yard. But I inherited the fear that made him bury it. This is where the science gets genuinely fascinating. Researchers Brad and Ted Klontz spent years studying exactly this pattern. They found that most people's financial behavior can be explained by something they call a money script, a core, usually unconscious belief about money that gets written in early childhood and then runs on autopilot for the rest of your life. And here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. These scripts are typically formed before you're even old enough to remember forming them. Nobody sits you down and teaches you your money script. You absorb it. From watching. From the tension in a room when a bill arrives. From a parent's face when the bank statement comes. The Clances identified 4 of these scripts. Money avoidance. The belief that money is bad, or that you don't deserve it, which can look like literally being afraid to check your own bank balance. Money worship. The belief that more money fixes everything. Money status. Tying your self-worth directly to your net worth. And money vigilance. Being careful and frugal, which sounds healthy, and mostly is, but taken to the extreme. It can trap you in constant anxiety even when you're financially fine. Grandpa. Money avoidance. Dad. Money worship, reacting against Grandpa. Me. Some anxious blend of both, quietly checking my balance like I'm afraid it evaporated overnight. Here's the plot twist that changes everything, though. Scientists have found that this isn't purely about copying behavior. There's actual research suggesting that severe financial stress can change how genes express themselves, meaning some of this anxiety might not just be learned. It might be partly inherited, biologically, the same way eye color is. Let that sink in for a second. Some of what you feel about money might not even be entirely yours. It might be an echo. So here's the actual question this whole video is built around. If the mistake isn't hoarding cash, and it isn't overspending, and it isn't obsessively checking your balance, what is the one mistake every single generation keeps making? It's silence. Grandpa never told his kids why he distrusted banks. Dad never told me why he needed the nicest car on the block. And until I started making this video, I had never once said out loud, I check my balance every payday because deep down I'm scared it won't be there. Nobody explains the fear. They just pass down the behavior and let the next generation guess. Studies on families under financial pressure back this up. The stress doesn't stay contained. It leaks into parenting, into mood, into the whole household. Researchers have also found that shame around money mirrors real trauma patterns, which means the silence isn't laziness, it's shame. And shame, by definition, wants to stay hidden. So I tried something. I sat down with my own kid. Not to lecture, I just told the truth. About the coffee cans. About Grandpa. I watched her face change. The fear finally had a name instead of just being a feeling in the room. Every generation in my family made the same mistake without knowing it. They just never talked about it. So go find your version, and then tell somebody. Don't repeat it by accident. Break it on purpose. If this saved you from your money mistakes, subscribe to Leaky Wallet so you don't miss out on our other videos.